I took a class last year at Kennesaw State, and there are a lot of things that were said in that class that I think have helped me grow as a person and helped change my life. Um, it was an African American diaspora class. It was hip hop based, actually. The two professors who co-taught the class were Dr. Seneca Vaught, Dr. Nicole Guillory. Both two brilliant minds and just two genuinely decent, good, kind-hearted, and wonderful people. And I learned a lot in that class. I learned a lot from the students, mostly the young black women in that class. One of the things that I realized is that, at 35 years old at the time, how outdated my thoughts and my feelings were about a lot of things that were going on in the world for black women currently. And amongst a lot of my peers, I was considered to be somebody that was more progressive in matters like that. And it really exposed the fact to me of just how quick life can get a hold of you, and you can become out of touch with the things that are affecting the generation that's coming after you in your community. But I spent a lot of time actually with Dr. Vaught and Dr. Guillory after class. I was fortunate enough that I lived close by to the campus, and so we developed a rapport, that extended beyond the class. And so oftentimes after class, if time would permit or I didn't have to work, I would stay after class and we would talk about, a multitude of things, just from life to love, the black condition, emasculation of men, degrading of women. You name it, they were the type of people and brilliant minds could run the full gamut with relative ease. One day, Dr. Vaught and I actually got in what I wouldn't call a heated debate, but it was very spirited, and he felt like I was being stubborn with my viewpoint. And I'm actually probably going to do a post later about the dynamics of how that unfolded, because he said something to me that was very poignant and very important that I'm going to cover at a later date. But the dialogue had shifted, and Dr. Guillory had stepped in, and I could tell that she was frustrated with me. But she said something to me that kind of shocked my system at the time, and it changed the dynamics of how I feel and how I look at love all in the same breath. She looked at me in the discourse of our conversation and said, "Ahmad, black love is tenuous." And when she said it, I felt hurt. And I felt hurt inside because there was so much truth that was wrapped in her saying that black love was tenuous. Like in saying black love is tenuous, like those four words explain and encapsulate the black experience and condition here in America on so many levels. Obviously, like relationally, because when we talk love, people immediately go to relationships between couples. It affects us professionally, business-wise, in decision-making in between families. And it was a painful thing to admit. So many of us, we portray black love as a beautiful thing, and it is, but part of the reason why I was so hurt when she said it was because I was very clear that I almost had a flashback of almost every relationship that I had ever had, not just like with women, like not partners. I'm talking like from my mother to my father, siblings, cousins, other black men in random interaction, black men I've been friends with. And almost all the dynamics and situations have some sort of tension to them that almost equates to where the love lies, or too much tension that it makes the situation not as functional or healthy as it should be. And so a lot of things are, I would not say beyond the control of black people in America. I think, just speaking realistically, our hands only stretch so far for the changes that we seek, and we need the help of others. But we do have more control over the tenuous situation about our black love. And so I'm going to unpack a couple of things that I'm talking about when I say that black love is tenuous, or more so how it was told to me by Dr. Guillory. And I mean this down from how we deal to each other on a fundamental level of things. Like, for me, I don't go a lot of places that I used to go, quite frankly, because I don't want to. But part of the reason why I don't want to is because of the tension that comes from the environment when my people get together. There are a lot of dynamics and situations that are controlled but uncontrollable. Like, you can't control somebody responding to you a certain way because his girlfriend starts talking to you while she's waiting in line at the bathroom at the club, or if somebody cuts you off pulling into the club and takes your parking space. There are so many situations where the tenuous nature of the circumstances that we've been placed in here, which does go into the socioeconomics and the racism, you know, we just do not handle those situations well. We don't handle those situations well when obviously when alcohol and drugs are involved, but relationally as well. You know, one thing that's really been disheartening for me as a black man has been how many other conversations I've had with black men in relationships who get excoriated and emasculated by their women when things are not going well. And that is not to say that there is not any part to play or blame to play on the man's side at all, but it does point to how, because of the tenuous nature, too often when we have problems with each other, we really don't respond in kind. We respond in anger and frustration. And so we end up saying and doing things to each other that hurt each other even more. And it makes the situation more tenuous. And you can find it in so many different circumstances of your life. Like, I can remember being 13 years old and moving up to my grandfather's land on West Boulevard, and I can remember thinking to myself, it's like, you know, like, what's wrong with him? He's sitting up here alone with all this land and this space. And, you know, I was like, it just didn't make sense to me why he would want that for himself. Me at almost 39 years old would probably go slap the shit out of the 13-year-old me for having that thought, because at 39 years old, I'm clear that it's not a question of if he should be sitting up there alone. It's a question of why he let all of our crazy asses come up there and disturb his peace. He actually placed himself in a more tenuous circumstance and situation for the sake of his family. And too often we have to do that for each other. And I'm going to say this, and not because it's my grandfather. I see very few of us handling it with the style and the grace that my grandfather did. And that's myself included, or first and foremost, rather. And so we've got a long way to go about how we just treat each other. I think if I could pull anything away from what I've heard and experienced myself personally from relationships in my 20s and my 30s, is that black men don't feel respected and black women don't trust black men. And I think all of the points are valid. It's just really comes down to the fact that we really going to start, you know, doing things in a more biblical manner, like, you know, love is patient, love is kind, is not brag, boast, behave rudely, you know, those things that are actually written down, because when the tension arises, we don't deal with each other how we should on any sort of level. I mean, I know one of these posts that I've done, I remember, was about how so many black men professionally have tried to tear me down because they've been intimidated by me. You know, it is to the point where it's like I'm not even interested in working for another black man, like, about anything, another tenuous circumstance and situation. Like, I'm not speaking from a place of knowing. I'm speaking from a place of being affected by it of so many levels and being hurt by it on so many levels, you know. And so I just want to submit to everybody that, you know, we can't change a lot of the things that are going on immediately the way that we like, and that's not to say changes aren't going to occur, but we can start to change daily how we deal with each other, how we love each other. We come from a circumstance of being taught how to survive and not to thrive, and so our relationships aren't built in a thriving and loving manner. they are built in a survival manner. When you build things in a survival manner, that is a more tenuous situation than a thriving one. And so although it's problematic, it's not insurmountable. You know, I have a lot to learn and a lot to grow from too. Dr. Guillory was expressing to me that Black love was tenuous because she was upset and frustrated with my stance as a 35-year-old Black man. And to be honest with you, she had a right to be, because I was coming from a place of being emotionally bankrupt or emotionally unintelligent enough to see beyond the things that I wanted to see and feel, because I was emotionally unintelligent and bankrupt. And when she said tenuous, it's something that struck a chord with me and hasn't let go. And so for a year now, I've been sitting out here doing this alone, and it's peaceful and it's not tenuous. And, you know, let's just try to be more of each other's peace. Peace.